Hey yo everyone! Mobile gaming is one of the biggest drivers in gaming revenue, despite the fact that a lot of people wouldn't really consider a mom playing Candy Crush as a traditional gamer. Last week, all of that changed. Apple, the leader in mobile phone sales, announced that game emulators can now be added to the App Store. This is a game changer. Now, I know all of you Android truthers will argue, what's the big deal? We've had emulation for years, and while that is true, the popularity of the iPhone dwarfs the success of Android devices. Apple allowing emulators onto their storefront will send shockwaves throughout not only the mobile gaming scene, but I think the gaming industry in general. So today, let's talk about this monumental moment in gaming history and how I think it could potentially shift the entire industry. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Alright, let's get it. Alrighty, so Apple is finally allowing emulators to come to the iPhone. But why are they suddenly doing this now? Out of the goodness of their heart? Of course not. Like basically everything else in the world, this move is driven by corporate greed and corporate greed alone. If you haven't been following the news lately, the EU recently passed a law that forbids Apple from blocking other app stores on their devices. The EU's argument was that Apple had a monopoly on app stores, so with this new law, the stranglehold that Apple once held will now be loosened up and other vendors can start selling on iPhones. So now instead of just having the plain old Apple App Store, you have other options to go to, such as AltStore. AltStore is already pretty popular on other platforms because it has a bunch of already sideloaded apps ready to go, including the Delta game emulator. If you're an average schmuck like me who just wants to play retro Pokemon games on his iPhone, then you're probably inclined to download AltStore as soon as it's available. Of course, Apple doesn't want to lose any potential traffic to their store, so they're opening the floodgates for devs to make emulators available for all Apple devices. Now they can hopefully retain customers and even potentially make some more money with their 30% App Store fees for developers. So, long story short, Apple is allowing emulators in the App Store because if they don't, then everyone is going to leave and go to better platforms. Okay, so next topic. When and what can we expect with these emulators? Well, since the green light was just given last week, I'd say we probably have a little bit longer to wait, but from what I found online, it looks like we can expect them this year still in 2024. As for the more important question of what we can actually expect to play on these emulators, well, it's complicated. Emulators themselves are not illegal, however, ROMs, or the digital copy of a video game that is being emulated, are. At least pirated versions are. The whole emulation thing is kinda confusing. If you want me to make a future video about it, let me know down in the comments. Basically, the emulators can come to iPhone, but unless the actual publishers themselves, such as Sony or Nintendo, post the ROMs for their games, then the emulators are kinda useless. There are ways to get these games though, such as jailbreaking your iPhone or using apps with sideloading content like AltStore. If you didn't know, sideloading is basically using an app to get content that isn't reviewed by the official App Store. In this case, AltStore could have the ROM to say Super Mario Land, and the Apple App Store wouldn't really know because they're not reviewing it. Basically, they're turning a blind eye so they can't be held accountable. Unfortunately for us Yankees here in the States, sideloading is only allowed in the EU. In America, Apple has warned developers that they are responsible for all such software offered in their app, including ensuring that such software complies with these guidelines and all applicable laws. Essentially, Apple is saying that if you don't have the license to put certain ROMs on your emulator, then you can get shut down and even sued by the publisher. So this is where things get kinda tricky. These new app stores themselves can't host the ROMs, but there isn't really anything preventing someone from downloading the ROM from some other corner of the internet and then just uploading it into the emulator later. Ooh, try saying that 5 times fast. The emulators themselves aren't actually offering the ROMs, just the tools to possibly run them if you get them. It's a little bit of a gray area, so we'll have to see how this actually turns out. I'm not saying you should download these ROMs and play them, but I will mention that no one in the history of video games has ever been prosecuted for playing a ROM. Not even once. ROM websites have been shut down, yes, but no one has ever actually been prosecuted. There have been cases and studies as to why this is, and like I said, if you think I should make a video about this, let me know down in the comments. I'm looking for judgment here. But moving on to the greater gaming industry as a whole, emulators are coming to iPhones, and that is great news, like I said. What and how you play games on there isn't any of my business, but I will say one thing. This change could alter the entire industry, not just mobile gaming. Here's what I'm thinking. Let's say that mobile emulation takes off like it has in so many other instances, and people are gaming on their iPhones like crazy. More time on the phone equals less time on the console. So how will publishers react to this? I have a couple of theories. One potential outcome is that publishers will try to hop on the bandwagon. I mean, just last year, we saw Capcom release Resident Evil Village for the iPhone 15, and it ran surprisingly well. Yeah, touch controls aren't the best, but there are plenty of accessories to work around that. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, publishers might shift their attention to mobile gaming. Yes, the PS5 and Xbox Series X are selling like hotcakes, but they've got nothing on the iPhone sales. Think about it. For better or worse, tons of devs are pushing their games onto the Nintendo Switch, regardless of if the console can even handle it or not, because of its insanely high player base. Now imagine those greedy corpos realizing they can put their game on the most popular handheld device of all time. They've got to be salivating at that idea. I don't know if companies will switch to exclusive mobile games or if they'll just try to do more ports, but I have no doubt in my mind that the mobile gaming scene is evolving at breakneck speed. Going back to these emulators though, having the iPhone allow them in their store could potentially change how we see retro games in general. If the emulators are super successful, then a ton of people are going to be able to easily access older games that they maybe never got to experience before. Some of these gems have been lost to time or just vaulted by the publisher for whatever reason. In this way, emulators are great for game preservation. Now, having this on the insanely popular iPhone will only boost the popularity of these older games. Publishers might see how successful some of these old franchises are and will either A, do a remake/remaster, B, bring the franchise back, or C, build their own emulator to capitalize on the retro gaming boom. Like I said earlier, ROMs aren't exactly legal, so if a publisher such as Sega wanted to make the most of emulation on mobile devices, they could build their own app and put it on the App Store. They own all of the legal rights, so they could put every game they wanted to on there. I'm sure a lot of people would rather just pay $10 or so for these games legally, rather than having to resort to a pirate's life and have to jump through a bunch of hoops. It's honestly a win-win. We get older games, these games are given the preservation they deserve, and the publishers can make a quick buck on games that they already built. I've been saying this for years. I will pay for a game if it's available. Quit gatekeeping video games. God, if we can just convince Nintendo to hop on this train, then we will be cooking. Anyway, these are my initial thoughts on emulators coming to iPhone. There are a lot of different factors that come into play here and even more potential outcomes, but I think that this is an exciting moment for the gaming industry. But I want to know what you guys think. What games do you want to see come to the iPhone? Are you a fan of mobile controls, or would you just buy an accessory? Would you be willing to pay for the games legally or just go straight to ROM hacks? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It means a lot. I appreciate you guys as always, and I'll catch you in the next one.